This video is going to make me very nostalgic. So, a little while ago, I made a video on the step-by-step process of becoming a licensed architect. All of the academic and all of the professional requirements and the examination process to become a licensed architect in North America. And one of my subscribers, Quentin, asked me if I could share my specific personal experience and how I was able to get my license within just 3.5 years after graduating from architecture school.
Thanks for asking.
So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be talking about my internship experience and my approach throughout the whole process. And I've broken it down into kind of 6 tips that I think could be helpful for you. And before we start, I should probably note that this is not a blueprint or a step-by-step process manual because everyone's journey is going to be different based on where you are, what your priorities are, and what your skills are, and even luck will probably play into it. So this is the path that I took, but everyone's could look different. I also want to talk a little bit at the end about my thoughts on licensure now, after going through the process and looking back at it, if I had the opportunity to redo it, how I would have done it differently. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Dami and I am a licensed architect in beautiful Vancouver, BC. On this channel, we talk about architecture and design and also some tools and strategies that can help us have more meaningful and fulfilling careers in architecture. So first, the why. Why was I in such a rush to get licensed? The average time for getting licensed is somewhere around 5 years, and a lot of people take a lot longer to do it. So my situation was kind of an anomaly, I guess. So when I finished my master's, I moved back to my hometown, Vancouver, to start working here. And that meant that I didn't really have the architecture community of friends that I went to school with. Most of my friends here in Vancouver were not in architecture. And because none of them had to do a master's, they'd already kind of been working in their careers for a couple of years. And yes, comparison is the thief of joy. But I kind of started to feel really behind in life. So that kind of lit a fire under my ass. Now, after actually getting licensed, I am seeing a lot more tangible benefits to becoming licensed, like an increase in salary, and my overall market value as an architect has increased significantly. But I'm gonna be talking about all of that in another video. So there were some, I guess you could call them strategies to how I approached my licensure. And I've kind of broken them down into 6 points here. Be selective where you intern. So I started working the summer after I graduated from my master's, and the job search was quite tough. I thought I had quite a good portfolio and I had won quite a few architectural awards, but I was still getting very few responses from firms. So when I finally did get an offer, I actually got 2 different offers from 2 different firms around the same time. When that happened, I was totally over the moon. But basically, before I started job searching, I kind of asked a lot of my older friends for some advice on like how to pick the right firm and like the whole internship process. And a lot of them advised me to try to look for a firm that could help me get licensed as fast as possible. Because apparently a lot of interns, they have to switch firms because the firm that they were at, they won't put them on projects, or they didn't have projects that were in phases that they had to get hours in. So when you graduate, it's very easy to take the first job offer that you get, and you might think like, oh, I can stay here for a little while and move if it's not the right fit or if I'm not getting the hours. But actually, like, if you're already working somewhere, it kind of takes a lot of effort to move somewhere else. And even if you do, that process is going to take months. So now you've already wasted months of your precious internship hours. So try to be pretty selective about it right from the get-go. And ask a lot of questions during your interview process. Be direct. Ask about how the firm helps interns collect their hours.
What kind of projects do you have? What kind of projects am I going to be working on? Do you have resources at the firm to help me with the exam process?
And yeah, try to ask those questions even if it's a little bit awkward. At least that way you've kind of done your due diligence and you've done your best to try to figure out what it's like. Try to figure out what type of projects you're going to be working on. So the way your hours works is you can use any project in your office to collect hours in different categories. Like, they don't all have to be from one project. So if you have a new house that's in schematic design phase, you can use that project to collect your site analysis hours and like schematic design hours. And if you have a project in CA, in construction admin, then you can collect CA hours from that particular project. The only problem with that is that you're really getting like bits and pieces of information. And I think the best learning experience is actually if you see a project through from start to finish. And so therefore, I think a small project will be much better for you, like a house or like a retrofit, because they have shorter time spans and you can actually see the project through from like beginning to schematic design to construction to project closeout. In my office, my project was a small office reno for the city of Coquitlam. And I was a little bit concerned actually because it's not a new building. So there wasn't any like site work or like foundations that had to go in. But what's more important is that you see the construction administration process through the project's timeline. And for things like site analysis hours, there were projects in the office that was going through that. So that's kind of how I got my hours for those. Don't go after the money when you're starting out. So remember how I was saying I got 2 offers from 2 different firms? So I got an offer from a large firm and I got an offer from a small firm. The large firm offered me a whole $5,000 extra over the small firm. And it was actually pretty tempting to go for the bigger firm because, a lot of my friends were going into big firms and, it's a little bit cooler. It's kind of the firm that you kind of want to go into after you graduate. And you have bigger projects, and $5,000 was a lot of money for me at that time. But after talking to a couple of the older students who had already gone through this process, I decided to go with a smaller firm just because I was pretty sure, I was like 150% convinced that the small firm was gonna help me get licensed fast. And it really seemed like they were willing to teach and mentor young interns. And in fact, one of the interns at there was only one intern at the firm. The intern, my friend Warren, he was actually at the interview. And he was saying that he ended up moving there from another firm because he was having a hard time getting his hours. And he was saying that there's a lot of responsibility and he gets credit for his work. And another big thing for me was that I would be working with the 2 principals like not a project architect or a senior architect. Like I would be working with the principals. And I've been kind of working since I was 14 years old. So I've kind of learned that you should try to go after people you want to work with, not necessarily companies. Because everything you see about a company, you should assume is like a facade. So for me, every time I have some kind of indication of what the people are going to be like, and good people are pretty hard to find, I do try to make a conscious effort to go after that. And this is actually still one of the main factors for me in choosing where I work. Log your hours diligently and check in with your project architect regularly. So I tracked my hours every single day for everything that I did in our time tracking app. And I just added a hashtag for the internship hours category. So let's say I was detailing a roof for a house. I would log those hours and add the hashtag construction documents. So when I have to submit my hours, I can just search up construction documents and it'll show me exactly how many hours I have in that category. And it's also going to tell me which project it's in. I also created an Excel sheet that adds all of the hours and kind of tells me how many hours I have left in each category. So if you want a copy of that, I'll leave the link below and you can download it and use it as well. The category I had the hardest time filling was the contract negotiations, which is basically reviewing bids and RFIs. And I had completed all of my hours and it was just that category that I was missing. And our office didn't have any projects going into tender at that time. So I talked to the principal and we kind of came up with a creative solution. Basically, I helped them create a checklist for tenders. So like I read through all of the questions from contractors that came in during an RFI process, and I kind of made a list of things that we need to be sure to include in our drawings or in documents. I also reviewed all of the bids and kind of tried to record any red flags that we could anticipate for other projects. Write your exams as fast as possible. I know, when you finish school, I'm sure the last thing you want to do is write another exam, but I think it's better to just rip off the Band-Aid and get it over with. You don't actually have to wait till you finish all of your 3,700 hours to write your exams. You can write them like as soon as you finish 2,700 hours. And yeah, I would just try to write them as soon as possible because you're not really gonna have more time next year. And sitting down and actually studying this stuff and learning it is gonna make you a better architect. And it's going to make you more valuable to the firm. And you're just going to be able to absorb more knowledge than when you're just learning on the job. Okay, before we go into my next argument, I just want to share a message from our sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform with tons of high quality, digestible classes for creatives where you can explore new skills or refine your existing skills. There's courses on photography, InDesign, Photoshop, or time management. I've been wanting to get back into photography, so I recently started taking a short course called Street Photography. And it's been so nice to be able to brush up my skills and share my progress with the class. Skillshare is designed specifically for learning, which means there's no ads, and they're always launching new premium classes so you can stay focused and build your library of skill sets. It's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription, but the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a free trial of the premium membership so you can test it out for yourself. So this is the journey that I took and I'm pretty happy with it. I'm happy with my decision. I feel more confident in my abilities. I got a 1.4 times salary increase the year that I got licensed. But I think there are also some downsides to taking the path that I took and kind of getting licensed as fast as possible. So recently, some of you guys know that I started working at like an international design firm with really high design standards. And until I came into this firm, I was quite a pragmatic person. I was more focused on like good project management, good client relationships, and like good execution of the project rather than like the concept or the design, which I was kind of willing to leave behind for, because I actually thought that was what being a real life architect is like. Because I had never worked in an architecture firm that was run like so much like a design studio. I've worked at 4 firms so far, but working here kind of made me realize that I really want to see how other firms operate. Like I really want to learn from other principals and see their design culture. So that is definitely something I could do, but I feel like once you get licensed, getting experience and like checking out different firms gets a little bit harder because you are fulfilling a more important role when you come into a firm as a licensed architect. You're typically managing a project or you're contributing to the firm in a pretty essential way that it would kind of cause a pretty big wrench to the firm if you just worked there for a couple months and left. And like out of respect for the people working there and for your professional reputation, when you go into a firm as a licensed architect, I think you should be thinking more long-term. But when you intern, it's a lot easier to jump around different firms. You can kind of work somewhere for a couple months and then you go somewhere else because you're not really that important. Your salary is much lower because your role is not as essential. And so you can learn from so many different architects this way. And like later on, when you have to decide which firm to settle down in, you can kind of make a more informed decision on like what kind of office you want to set your roots in. And also if you want to open your own office, you have more references to pull from. Of course, I'm saying this from the point of view of having already paid back my student loans and like having savings in my bank account. So maybe if that wasn't the case, I wouldn't even be thinking like this. I mean, like experience is kind of a privileged concept, right? I'm definitely happy with my choices because I really like what I'm doing and I'm really happy about where I'm at. But I have been observing that my values have been shifting as I get older, especially when it comes to money and time. I think when I was a little bit younger, I was willing to trade my time and experiences for money or for the ability to make money faster. But now I would much rather have more time and more experiences and more opportunity for learning over money. But I think this is totally normal. We change, our circumstances change, and our priorities change inevitably. I think we just have to be mindful of that and be flexible and also try to make room in our days to reflect and think about our values and where we want to be in the future. Anyways, I would really love to know where you are in your journey right now and where you want to be in the next 3 years. Let me know in the comments below. I can't wait to hear from you. And yeah, thanks for watching.